has been a jam-packed day 2 of this event. We had, apparently there's a blackout in Stockholm, Sweden tonight, which is caused us some interesting problems earlier, but everything has been going as smoothly as you expect when we're demoing tech products and really talking about innovation in fashion and apparel. And with that said, I'm going to let you, Ty, take it away, introduce CADOGAN, and I'm going to get out of here.
All right. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. This is Ty Gibbons from the Workforce Pro, and I'm going to be introducing you to CADOGAN Price, who is founder and CEO of CADOGAN. They have these amazing jackets that I actually love, and I'm going to let CADOGAN tell you a little bit more about it, but I'm going to be talking with him about his brilliant decision to focus on customer experience fairly early in his process. So turn it over to you.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. So the brand was founded in 2017, probably more or less came to market really in 2019 after kind of traveling the world, really understanding supply chain, the process not only to create a leather jacket, but, one that is now CADOGAN. And so, with that in mind, the evolution, I guess, from there was really, we saw an opportunity for e-commerce, in terms of the audience we're engaging with and how we wanted to go to market. That was definitely a big focus for us. And with that in mind, we've worked very closely with some retailers as well. And it's really been an amazing feedback loop from our customer base, working with store owners to really help us transform the product. And in that process of kind of working so closely with the customer, a lot of things unfolded that we realized were so kind of quintessential, I guess, in terms of running the business on a day-to-day, which was e-commerce is so dehumanized, and we really wanted to, bring to light a more hands-on experience as we go forward. And that's just, opened so many doors for us in so many different ways. The community gets stronger day by day. We're super excited about just the overall kind of growth in terms of maturity of the brand, but also in terms of the way in which we're interacting, right? We've just had an amazing NFL partnership that surfaced. We've had some other things that have come to light. So it's just because of kind of the focus on product, the focus on the customer, and how the marriage of the two work in today's climate, really understanding that and applying that has just kind of helped us be more on the I guess, trending edge of what's needed today.
Gotcha. So tell me, what was the inspiration behind starting CADOGAN? What's the inspiration behind the brand in general?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, I'm a buyer myself, I guess, of clothing, of course, just like all of us. But, I was number one to really overextend myself into like true designer brands, when you're talking about the Louis Vuittons, the Dior's, and maybe a Fendi or so. So, from that perspective, I always appreciate the quality. It's something that the workmanship, those guys are literally creating a new space every day in terms of just thought leadership and in the way in which like a Kim Jones at Dior just creates new, and it's just fascinating to me. The other parts of that was, okay, so that's a whole realm of price point in itself. And then I felt like there was kind of the lower end, which is really interesting, like a Zara. Some of that stuff's very hit and miss. You have so many SKUs that you can kind of find something within that realm that, maybe you get excited about and that the quality's there. But, that's also something I don't see consistency. You just kind of see a spectrum of so many different things, right? A lot of different noises coming kind of when you walk into those stores. And then there's this mid-tier, this premium space, which I think it's been kind of owned and kind of the way I look at it from, your Vince, your Zadig and Voltaire, your All Saints, your Sandro, your Theory, your Rag & Bone. And they do amazing silhouettes, amazing fabric choices, a lot of heritage and some of these brands have been around for 30, 40 years. And I felt like there's a bit of like, they're conservative. I don't want to say they're kind of boring, but they're conservative in terms of design. So I felt like you get a black leather jacket, you get a black lining with that leather jacket. There's no, as a guy, you want to express yourself within your own comfort, but you want to kind of give yourself that little bit of edge. You want something to be a little bit more kind of loud at times, other things a little bit more subtle. And so the big thing that kind of started the conversation was, how do we basically give the guys the opportunity to tell a story but what we call design with one twist. So we're always looking to add an element of surprise, but there's a spectrum, right? We're not adding 50,000 studs to our jackets where there's a lack of comfort. And so we call it kind of like calmness, composure, confidence. That's the CADOGAN man. With that in mind, the look, we try to like amplify certainty. So whatever that means to kind of the kind of customers that we're chasing and speaking with, it's really embodying that.
I actually want to show some of your designs. I'm gonna bring up your site, and I was thinking that.
And like for example, right? So like this, I don't know if you can see it in here, but this has a really cool blue lining, right? Which is going to be less common. I know you probably can't see it, but it's an Italian satin, really rich blue. But
now is that particular jacket on the website
right
now?
Yeah, that's just the capital. That's one of probably the more cleaner, simpler looks. But you can just scroll down right there. If you just scroll down just a little bit, you'll see like this one on the far left, right? It has the leather with the suede trim. This one has a really cool kind of diagonal cut in the shoulder, and then the Maven's one of our louder pieces with some titanium metalwork and some suede details. And then obviously the other part of this whole conversation is just to be in that market. Obviously it's price. So we had to really understand supply chain to bring Italian satin into the mix and bring high quality, full grain Napa leather, but not provided at a retail price point of, $1,400, $2,200. So that was a really cool learning experience. And working through that, when we first went to market, our jackets were over $1,000, and we had to really reevaluate supply chain. And it wasn't actually that the quality of the product went down. It was just a lot of our kind of effort around the different disciplines and domains that made up the product. But yeah, so that's part of it, right? Is to be in that market, you also have to make it accessible. So it's a premium product, but it's accessible, and at the same time, it could be aspirational for a lot of people, which we're hopeful for. But aspirational in the sense that you can achieve it and buy it, kind of like a BMW or some of these cars. What I mean? It's not a Lamborghini or something like that.
So describe your customer, because you mentioned that, you mentioned a lot of different brands that exist today, but exactly who are you guys targeting, and what was your process in defining that? Because I think that an opportunity for other businesses is to really hone in and focus in on who they're going after, especially from a customer experience standpoint. And you seem to understand your customer very well, what he likes, what he needs. How did you get to that process?
Yeah, I mean, the brand's probably an extension of myself, so if I don't like it, then it's probably in alignment with. But no, I mean that kind of jokingly. But ultimately we have some amazing customers and kind of focus groups that also provide a lot of sound feedback. But with that in mind, I think there's our guy, and this is something that I've learned, right? Our guy is not, he's old enough to, so let's say 28, give or take, old enough to appreciate quality, but also invest in quality, right? So, understanding, and by all means, I'm not, Zara and some of these guys, there's some great wins at those stores. So it's somebody that appreciates quality, knows how to find quality, knows how to style things together, right? So they may wear something from Zara or something from Vince because that's a really nice clean tee, but then they want to wear a jacket that, you can be a little bit louder. With jackets, you can always take a jacket off, right? So you can wear something a little bit louder knowing that you can always go check it. So with that in mind, our customer, we've seen, it's probably like 28 all the way up to like 58, which has been amazing. We have this amazing audience, 48 to probably 58, that has been absolutely very, very kind of, incredible supporter of what we're doing. I think the big conversation piece is the lifestyle piece. So we're speaking to somebody that, enjoys going out to a nice dinner, maybe has a few kind of wild nights, within a quarter, and kind of gets after it, has some fun, dresses up, goes out with their friends or a couple guys. Somebody that definitely travels a lot, right? So they're kind of changing climates and living in and out of, colder or warmer weather. And I think it's somebody that, at the very core, it's somebody that, is a sense of humility, right? So the clothing's not super loud. So I think it's somebody that's not trying to be the loudest person in the room, but it lives a life of abundance, is actually like striving for so much more in life. So, I look at and the way we want to speak to our customers, somebody that isn't living an ordinary life. This is somebody that is creating an extraordinary life. And what that means is, like, whether it's in a corporate setting where they work for somebody else, but they just want more. Like, they're constantly pushing the needle of corporate entrepreneurship internally, to kind of earn that seat at the table. And so I find that like it could be a small business owner, a medium-sized business owner, somebody that, you know, appreciate. We do have a lot of really awesome celebrities, from Sterling K to just that partnership with Lance, that like obviously people appreciate that, and that obviously has a part in it. But I think the big conversation piece is, I want to create a piece of clothing where if you're having dinner with a CEO of 1,000, 2,000 person company and he's wearing that Tom Ford jacket because he can afford it, you come to dinner at the Cadogan, or at the table with a Cadogan jacket, and you just immediate, like, there's nothing that needs to be said, but he respects you, you're well groomed, you look the part, and you basically earn that seat at the table, and when you're at that table, you feel comfortable. So you can always level up, and hopefully you'll grow to the point that Cadogan, the price point, it's you know, inconsequential to, you know, your discretionary income. But the point being is, you know, I think there's a much larger audience out there that's trying to achieve that than the ones that, you know, obviously that are already at that 1%. And so, you know, giving people the tool, you know, clothing's your second skin, giving them the tool to feel confident, look their best. I always say, I don't care if you own one Cadogan or 10, but if you only own one, but we also consciously have that outfit that we're like, all right, I have a big date or a big meeting, and you want to look your best. Like, you know, that outfit, you're like, I just feel good in this. If that's our jacket or if that's our tee or something of that nature, then we're doing our job. And that to me is probably the most important part of the whole piece.
I love that. I know you and I have been working on customer experience ops more specifically, and I really commended your decision to focus on it so keenly. And also, you are one of the most prepared people I've ever worked with. Whenever we have anything to work on together, you're constantly on top of it, if not ahead of it. And even going down to the detail of having your playbook that you've designed already, which is amazing. When you were building out, I'm more curious about like your background and your thought process in setting up your business, because you seem to be very forward thinking and you seem to be thinking about things from end to end. Can you talk to the audience about your mindset when you were setting up the business, and then deciding who you wanted to be? So for example, that's a little question, but for example, when we call any business or you talk to any company, the person picks up the phone and they, like, for example, you know, thank you for calling Cadogan, this is Ty, as an example. Right, my name is Ty, but the person called Cadogan, right? And so regardless of what Ty says and does, the person's got to remember what happened with Cadogan, not necessarily with Ty, right? So as you were thinking about who your brand was going to be, how it was going to be presented, what were some of the thought processes that you had, and what drove you to become so focused on making sure that you had built your brand, documented, pretty much like regimented everything that you wanted, which I think is great, and it's something I encourage and actually do for other clients, but I didn't have to do that for you. So I just want to learn a little bit more about your background and how you came to be.
I appreciate it. So, I mean, when the truth be told, I didn't really get into the opportunity to do this till, you know, most recently. So, when I was much younger, I had an amazing grandma who was just a phenomenal artist, or is a phenomenal artist. And so she definitely imprinted on me, just working with her on acrylics, pastels, and different, you know, mediums that I didn't realize, you know, what that really meant to me at such a young age. And it just probably opened my mind, plus some of the traveling I had done early on. And so, you know, when you bring that to light and then you kind of move forward and, you know, graduated college, got a job in kind of a sales role and stayed in that kind of capacity, worked my way up into enterprise software. But the point being was just, you know, from that perspective, like, corporate has a lot of value, right? In terms of like, a company is not like the last company I was with was about $500 million company, 1,700 employees. They didn't get there without, you know, structure, systems, people. Like, it's just nearly impossible to do that without obviously having a team around you. And so, you know, there was a lot to be said if you kind of open your eyes to like, why do we do this, and what is this system, and what's the, you know what I mean? You realize, like, if you get outside of your bubble as an employee and look, and as I kind of worked my way up within that company, had a chance to be in Singapore for a couple of years working, like, my eyes got opened up, you know, seeing some of the P&L and other things. And so with that in mind, you know, that was kind of the foundation, if you may, and you know, what came of it was I just realized that it wasn't lighting my world on fire like I had hoped, and I ventured out into the creative world. And when I started CADOGAN, I couldn't tell you where this came from. And I was thinking of like, if you were to ask me, what feedback would you give, or what would you let somebody know to kind of, start off on the right foot? There's two things, and I did mention it before, but I want to make sure I mention it. So you asked like, how do we define the avatars? But the first thing was, when we started the business, which kind of answers your bigger question, is I decided, okay, I got to come up with like 3 core values that ultimately resonate throughout the entire capacity of the business, no matter how big or small we ever are, that every decision that from there on out is basically decided based on those factors. And what I mean by that is, for the brand, especially for me as a decision maker within the brand, a key stakeholder, and I push this off onto all staff and primary kind of key stakeholders, is scalability, freedom, and quality. And like they're kind of overarching umbrellas, and they're the North Star. So quality, right? That's an easy one. Whether it's product, if you can find a lining for $3 cheaper per yard, that doesn't mean it's the right lining for us. For somebody else like Zara, that might be the right lining. I won't make a decision based on price. The second conversation piece is around, scalability. Systems create scalability. People create scalability. So when you think of it in that nature, myself compared to another business owner, hey, look, business is growing, you should implement a service help desk. Somebody else may say, look, we're trying to bootstrap it a little bit differently, let's just keep using the email. I say, look, I know that we already need to have the transparency, the reporting, the people. Let's put the system in place first, build on top of that system, knowing that from there on out, it's going to be a much easier process for everybody involved. And I can now bring more people into the fold much easier. And then last part is freedom. Like, that's selfishly, it's for me, but I always wanted to work on the business, not in the business. And I want to be able to step away, meaning I have support systems, so forth. And so, like, in terms of those 3 principles, I can honestly say, when it came to the conversations we had, the reason we had those conversations is because it was very black and white. Do you do this or do you not do this? This is directly aligned with what I believe is the North Star for the business. The system comes first, and then we do this, and this. And then the rest of it is just obviously hard work. I've got some incredible people around me, like I really do. So I've learned so much from other people. And I've got a mentor that, more or less is so involved in the business. And then I got one of the best customer service people I could ever ask for. And then a million other marketing folks and warehouse people that just make this business run so smoothly. And so, I think people, without a doubt, have made a difference. They give me the time back to be prepared for the conversations you and I have, get you the information you need, right? And that to me is that's a you can't put a price on that as well.
I'm with you on that one for sure. I know earlier on you had mentioned that part of what you wanted to do was have a very human experience. And you wanted to differentiate yourself from other brands. Can you expand on that a little bit? What does that look and feel like to you and your customer?
Yeah, I think when I first think of the lifestyle, right? So when I think of the lifestyle of the brand, I when you go, and I just say BMW, I just happen to have one, but when you go to the service center, like, you get a very positive experience there. I hope you do. That's their effort, right? And it's going to be a little bit different than maybe some of the other brands that are going to be considered a class below, right? And so my point being is just that, there's 2 ways to look at it. We're not Wi-Fi, and I mean that jokingly, but like, if Wi-Fi doesn't work, people are pissed. Like, right away, they're like, damn, this Wi-Fi sucks. We're clothing, right? If somebody gets something and it's not, like, in terms of they have to exchange it, or they don't have the best customer service experience, but then they wear it, then they get a bunch of compliments, they almost forget about that. And that could be a way to just kind of accept, which is a bit complacent, but you could just accept that as being like, let's give a 6-7 customer, 6, 7, 8 kind of experience, and that's good enough. But I actually feel, and this is somewhere where I'm really leaning into as a business owner and driving the culture and the organization into like a very customer service oriented philosophy, theory, and practice. And the reason for that is because I think e-commerce, especially with COVID, it's only going to get more saturated. It's a very effective business model, so rightfully so. And with that, customer service is an amazing opportunity to differentiate yourself. And when we talk about what we're doing today and what we're going to do, the part we're doing today is there are a lot of brands out there that you buy something from them, and in the parcel comes a prepaid return shipping label. So you basically can immediately try it on, say, and ship it back, right? And you're almost encouraging that behavior. And then the other part to it is there's a lot of these things like happy returns and all these platforms out there where people can basically go to a website, a microsite, click a couple things, and process an exchange or a return.
Wait, one second, Cadigan.
Sure.
The sound. Are you experiencing that too?
I can hear you both fine. I heard a little bit of echo on your side, Ty, though, but I think it's still working.
Okay, because literally I was hearing.
Oh, you're okay. Do you need me to lean in?
I'm on a delay, but as long as
something?
everybody else is good, I'll be quiet. Go
No,
on.
you're
Sorry.
good.
I think it's working okay.
Yeah, no, I think we're okay. I can hear great. And so all I was saying was then the other part too is like automation of returns just through a website. People go, they click a couple buttons. So one thing we've done is like, I want you to speak with somebody on our team. One, we can learn what's going on so we can adjust that in future product cycles. But two, that's a great opportunity for us to build a win and build a relationship, most importantly. Because let's say somebody is in between a medium and a large and they want to go ahead and they need to kind of find out, well, we don't have a store at this time. So having them the opportunity to go ahead and try on those two jackets is an amazing opportunity for that customer to basically really see that we value kind of their support and their basically involvement in the brand, and do it in a more premium way, like do it in a more hands-on white glove approach. And so that's really important to us. And one thing that I'm really focused on and working with you is basically tripling the size of our customer service staff in the next 60 days. Like we are focused on putting systems in place and people in place so that we can do live chat on the website and do like proactive live chat and like engage with customers on the front end, because I want to humanize that experience in a very like casual conversational way. And then on the return side, and then obviously handling phones, we need more support on in real time to come ahead and support phones. So we're kind of flipping the script. Instead of saying let's get that 6, 7, 8 score and that's that's good, we want to go into the point where people are like, bar none, best customer service I've ever experienced, and they just have faith, because e-commerce, you get something for the first time especially, you're like, will it fit, will it not fit? That creates a lot of apprehension. I want to make sure that we're there each step of the way to kind of handhold the customer through the experience and make sure that they have a positive one.
So I'm still having sound issues.
That's okay.
Actually, so for me, the second part of the conversation just ended.
It's a bit of a delay. That's okay.
Sorry about that, y'all.
It's okay.
No, that was great. I'm really looking forward to continue to work with you on building the experience that you want to give to your clients. It's been really fun so far, and I love how in touch you are with the experience that you want to create. It makes my work a lot easier, and that's what we're here for.
That's
so
good.
Let's see here. All right, so let's look ahead.
I'm just bringing you face to face.
Okay. I'm still having that trouble, but that's okay. Let's look ahead. Okay, no problem. Let me stop all of my screen share. All right. So let's talk about the future, and let's talk a little bit about the experience that you've had with COVID. Like you mentioned that so many businesses are moving towards e-com, which is 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
How has that impacted CADOGAN as a brand? Where do you see yourself in a year from now and 5 years from now?
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, to say that like we don't necessarily pay attention to that would be a lie, but at the same time you can't, right? They have their own business model. Like e-commerce within e-commerce is like, it's amazing what I've learned just in the different business models. So I think, the big thing is understand your customer, understand, we have a branding deck, which, we talked about the principles in the branding deck, the two go hand in hand to kind of speak to the evolution of the brand. and more importantly, share that with our partners that we bring on so they understand kind of our footprint and what we stand for. But, with that in mind, customer service, I think that's going to be a keystone to our success. I'm in a kind of a project right now, we could call it, which will be delivered in April, where we're basically partnering with a company that has over 5 million body scans. And why that's so important is they can actually basically, with very limited information, plus our detailed specs, plus some customer feedback, which we've been working on with our customer base, basically provide a recommendation in terms of a fit. So they have this ability to take basically that customer's profile, which very, very simple, like less than maybe 4 questions, 5 questions, like very simple. And it's just like click, 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 done. And it can spit out a recommendation on the jacket. So, and it's to our spec, to how we'd like to see the jacket fit. So I think that will be amazing. And then big picture, it's just evolution of product. So, we're already working and having conversations around a whole denim kind of build out, right? And when we first launched, we had kind of done everything. So we had shoes, bags, belts, menswear in its all its glory. And we kind of narrowed down the scope just to get really good at a couple things. And now but we know the vision for the big picture, but now kind of build it out and take that time to do it right. We just launched hoodies. That was like a 6-month process, but feedback's been amazing, right? So to me, that's really important because of kind of the ethos of the brand, what we stand for, and more importantly, our price point. And so, with that, we're working on a denim project. That's a big goal for this year. And then from there, that opens things up. We can get into like wovens, we can get into knitted, sweaters and so forth, and some kind of cool look and feel. Definitely accessories to complete the look, bags, belts, shoes, that kind of thing. And so that's all, privy and something we're working on. And then lastly, we have big plans. I mean, from the standpoint of creating in-store experiences, we've had a number of stores reach out that we're exploring partnerships with in Florida and Georgia, California, and New York, that like the right partners, brands that carry really cool brands from Balmain to MCM to like brands that we would fit in nicely with and really kind of be respected upon, which is pretty cool. And even offer that opportunity is tremendous. And then lastly, it's international. So Q1 next year, big plans is to open this thing up we've got some amazing outreach from Germany and some other markets on a monthly basis and see what we can kind of drive from that story. And then women, maybe one day soon, because I have women that always ask, when are we going to get our jacket? So.
Yep, that was going to be my next question. I'm still having the sound issue. Derek, can you hop in for a second? I'm going to drop off and come right back because I have a final question for you.
Okay. While we're waiting for your return, I am eyeing these jackets, just kind of like sitting here on the sidelines thinking, okay, when do I get this, right? I love the styles. I'm looking across, and that suede one is like perfectly my style. And I'm thinking as soon as live events become a thing again, I'll be traveling to a few of them, and so definitely want to incorporate that. While we're waiting on Ty, I have a question. You talked a little bit about price point and pricing and being able to work that on the supply chain side. Have you done anything in terms of price testing? Because I feel like these price points are, you could be that the price goes up and you get more sales because you're in such a great niche luxury market. So
it's a great question, right? So especially with jackets, this was a kind of a learning experience over 18 months, but went to market, let's say $1,000 plus when we first launched, and it was so nominal and such only a handful of people have those jackets. But the reality of it is if you want to play in that space, the whole business model changes from runway shows and fashion shows. Like you're talking a different mindset as a brand, and you have to have incredible patience in the scheme of things because it's a commitment, and most people are not going to jump on that online. To be honest, like most people are going to try that on in the store, and then they'll be like, oh, this is, and that's where we had a lot of good retail relationships, and that's where that product moved. And in that kind of venture, we were doing some different things, like we were using some exotic materials and some other things, but there's, black leather is king, right? So even though I'm not wearing one of the black leather at the moment, but black leather is king. And so we went from that to evaluating and testing on some price points. And so we spent a couple months. and it's an interesting sweet spot that we found, and we've had to work backwards with our partners and really understand kind of how this is all going to come together. But particularly on the jackets, knits, we're kind of in the mix with a lot of other people. But on the jackets, I have found that when you go, and this is without, like, we're a newer brand, so this is without like Armani behind you, right? So granted, like without that kind of brand kind of platform to stand on. So with that in mind, when you go into like what I have found, like $600 plus, more or less $650 plus, you get into this conversation where, especially for the first time purchase, people start to realize like, this is an investment, which it always is, but I want to try it on first. And like, that's really interesting. Around that sweet spot of the $500 mark, give or take, we have found that people are willing to give us a shot, and then we hopefully we always exceed expectations, but like that is something. And it's interesting because if you go less than like probably 300, 350, people don't believe it's real. They're like, there's no way it could be that nice with like, they're like, you know what I mean? But not that we can even afford to do that with our margins, but they would be like, that's fake leather, right? So it's like this weird, like you can't go too low because then people are like, we're using real leather. There's no way you can make a jacket that nice at that price, which is, I mean, you have to do an incredible amount of units. But so it's kind of funny, like testing and understanding that. We have found this sweet spot for us where, look, we get messages quite often where people are asking if they can come in and try it on. With COVID and other things, it's kind of limited our ability to have that interaction. But, ultimately it's a kind of a fun place to play that 450, 500, it just opens the door for conversation, and obviously the free shipping, free returns, that just allows people to have a little bit more comfort around the purchase. But yeah, hopefully that helps you.
Oh yeah, I love it. Ty, I'll let you ask your final question. I'm hopping back out.
Yeah. So I think we talked a little bit about what's next, possibly moving into women's clothes, going international, which is amazing. The final question I have for you is what would you do differently? Like, knowing what you know now, you spent a lot of time building your brand, researching, etc. If you were to start anew, what would you do differently?
Yeah, I think it's a tough. You know what, we invested in. We're talking. I personally, I guess, invested in thousands of dollars because I've made some money through my professional career, which is fun in this business. So, I spent a lot of money on like trademarks. Now, granted, now looking back on it, because of where we are, where we're going, like those trademarks could cost us a lot more later if we didn't do that. At the time, I think that was a terrible investment. But my point being is, I think, and where I'm going with this is that we basically, I worked for a big company before I left. I always appreciated the scalability. I mean, I'm a big dreamer when it comes to having a team, and that, like, I enjoy that. I thrive. Those people give me energy. And so my point being is, like, I never wanted to be a mom and pop shop. I never wanted, like, we have dreams to be a, $1 billion business in 10 years. Like, that is what we are working towards. And we have that, like, we want to get into a hotel. Like, there's some things that, like, I would love to see kind of the progression, right? Take the, and so my point being is just, with all of that in mind, you also have to understand you don't start that way. And so when you have those big dreams, you have to dial it back in terms of your decision making. You have to be a dreamer, but you also have to understand that from 1 to 100, there's 99 or 98 or 99 steps in between that take you all the way to that. And those brands have gone through it. So to look at All Saints and try to even replicate some of the things that they may be doing correctly or incorrectly or build off of, you don't have the complete picture because there's so much infrastructure, so much overhead. You can be more nimble, you can be quicker to market. You don't have the scalability in some areas. You can't afford to do certain things. Like, we can't finance the amount of inventory needed. Like, we would be in a much healthier, even if we could just finance the over, multiple seven figures we probably need in inventory at this moment to kind of build. And so those kind of things are earned, they're learned, and you just can't expedite that. And you also can't live in that mindset of always not even comparing, but trying to be like, you should want to be your own brand and better than what's out there, and try to limit kind of how much energy you spend trying to always understand what, like, the biggest players in the world are doing, because I get that's what you want to become. We all, after college, we all want to work for Nike. We all want to work for But like most of us end up at companies we've never heard of before. And like you eventually could end up at Nike and you work your way up, but like there's all these steps in your career path to get there to be the marketing manager for Nike. And my point being is the same thing with a brand. Like you could end up, you look at Gymshark and these brands that are in a very short amount of time have just changed the entire landscape of a specific product vertical within retail. But, you also have to respect what they've done. And in that respect, be humble, focus on what you need to do in the short term. Think 1, 2, 3 steps ahead plus the 10 steps ahead so that you're building towards that. But that does not happen overnight. That does not, some people hopefully have that success. I wish them the well. It hasn't happened for us. But in that regard, I'd say, manage the dreams versus reality. And in that capacity, like we spent tens of thousands of dollars on trademarks way too soon, where that could have been great value for inventory. And then the last thing I'd finish with is inventory is king. At the end of the day, look, we're talking customer service, and I can't wait to double down on customer service. Website, we have a huge project multiple projects going on there. Operationally, we've done some amazing things to kind of streamline logistics and more importantly, marketing is always an ongoing conversation. All of those can be absolutely first class, world class. And if I have no product to sell, we make no money. So the reality of it is that you have to put more emphasis on inventory. Now it's a game, right? You don't, especially out of the gate, you don't know what the customer feedback is going to be, and you want to put the best product out there, but you don't always know if you did it right? We've had multiple iterations of our jackets to get them where they are today, whether it's a cuff that needed to be shortened, a certain zipper that needed to be a little bit bigger, whatever it may be. But my point being is, at the end of the day, it's a healthy balance that you have to find, because you can invest in all these other areas and create the most amazing experience, but there's only one jacket, you're creating that whole experience for one customer. So in order to kind of finance all of those experiences, plus obviously create kind of the realm and community that you want, you have to have product. And that's something that we got out of the gate hot last fall, and that was a very hard lesson learned, because it went amazingly well, much more so like within 6 weeks, well over 6 figures. And it just but we didn't forecast for that on the inventory side. And so all of a sudden we had to rebuild, change the entire production model, financing model to really support what we know we can accomplish this year.
Cool. Very cool. Thank you so much. Thank you for this.
Thank you. I appreciate
this was really good. It's been really great working with Cadogan. He's really on top of this stuff, and you can tell that he really cares a lot about the experience that he's delivering for his clientele. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you both.
Yeah, of course.
It's been great having you both here. I love hearing brand stories like this. It just makes me think about it makes me think about two things. I think I gain a little bit more hope for humanity and hope for e-commerce when I hear stories of brands that start by caring for their customers and start with core values, because of course there is a dark side to e-commerce, and a lot of brands that were really out to just hustle somebody out of a dollar. I think that was the trend about 10 years ago that e-commerce is kind of coming out of now. When we launch digitally native vertical brands such as yours and prove value, we're also getting rid of that stigma of the past. And so, and this is what will propel e-commerce forward. So you're just a part of a beautiful system of taking us to the next level. And Ty, always you're showing us how the value of caring about the customer is what should be first and foremost for everyone. So thank you both for being here. We're going to close it out after this, so I'll let you guys go, and then I have some closing words for everyone.
Cool.
Bye, everyone. Thank you again.
Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate your time.
All right. Take this off. Put my own face on, I guess. Hey, it's me.
Hope you guys enjoyed that.